Welcome to WYSIWYG Studios. Today I am going to show you how I magnetized my Aeronautica Imperialis aircraft so that way they can be attached to their flight stands and still have a full range of dynamic poses and be able to detach for ease of transport. Let's get started. I have the tools that we will be using for this tutorial laid out in front of us. Now, just a small caveat to this tutorial, I am going to be running in manual mode when it comes to my focus, so that way I can force the camera to pick out the important parts instead of trying to get the camera to do it automatically. So if you can just bear with me, I will do my best to keep the bits that you care about in focus, and then I will figure out the rest from there. So, starting off with the tools here, I'm using sprue clippers. You're going to want to use an old pair, because what we'll be using these for will damage the teeth over time and make them very ineffective. So I've had this pair for about 5 years now, so it's been regulated to stuff like this, and I have a newer pair that I use on actual sprues. You're going to want some super glue. I just have some medium glue here so that it doesn't run as much. Whatever super glue you want to use is fine. Then we're going to kind of combine a couple of these together. So I have the Dremel set over here for the mini drill bits. For this set, we are going to be using the 1/16 drill bit and the 1/8 drill bit. Then this drill bit here doesn't really matter. This is a 7/32 drill bit, but this size doesn't matter. You just want to step up, or a couple of steps up, to our final size, which is 1/4 of an inch. Because if you go from the small ones to straight to 1/4 of an inch, you run the risk of shredding the plastic that these planes are made out of. Just have a standard X-Acto knife here to help poke some pilot holes into various things. I have a small jeweler's diamond file here for filing down the acrylic rod after we clip the ball off of it. And then 2 various sizes of hand drills. Excuse me. So this smaller one, of course, will be for that, but this one only goes to 1/8 of an inch, so I needed a bigger one to be able to fit these over here. This one, the biggest size it goes to is 1/4 of an inch, so it works out perfectly for us. Then we are going to be using 1/4 inch steel beads, and I specified beads because the beads have a hole in them where you could use them to make like necklaces and stuff like that. And that is what we're going to be using in combination with our brass rod to get a solid connection point to the acrylic rod of the flight stand. Then we're going to be using N42 strength ring magnets. These are 1/4 or 1/4 inch outer diameter with a 1/8 inch inner diameter, countersunk to a number 2 Phillips screw. I will throw a link to where I picked these up down in the description below. And so all of this combined, and then I will be using my trusty cutting mat so that way I don't damage this nice gaming mat that I've been using as a background. So let's go ahead and get on with it, shall we? First up, we are going to do the easiest piece here, and that is just to grab your sprue clippers. You're going to cut the ball off the acrylic flight rod as close to the ball as possible. Then you're going to want to grab your file and just gently file it down smooth. It doesn't have to be completely perfect, just enough to have a flat area so that way we can start our pilot hole and start drilling. Which next will be our pilot hole, so carefully make a small indentation in the center of the acrylic rod, paying very, very close attention to not slipping, because if you do, it will suck. Once you've got that pilot hole poked, then you are good to set up your pin vise. We'll be using the 1/16 drill bit. If you don't feel comfortable going straight to this drill bit, you can always start with a smaller size, drill down to where you're going to go, and then drill up to the 1/16. If you do that, please be very careful, because the more you drill, the more chance you have of cracking the acrylic. Once you have a deep enough hole that you're comfortable with that will be able to grab onto the brass rod, you are good to go for this step. The only thing I tell you here is to be very careful that you're drilling straight into the clear acrylic flight stand rod thingamabobber, because if you get too close to one edge, you'll crack it, or if you go in crooked, you'll end up drilling out of the side of the acrylic rod, which then you'd have to use a different rod. So next up, you're going to grab the 1/16 brass rod piece that we have, and you're going to thread a bead onto this. Now, you're going to want to put some super glue on the end of this, but using only enough to get it to glue, because glue does take up room. So if you put too much on there, you will have a hard time getting the brass rod to seat all the way back into the hole you've drilled. Be careful here, just kind of twist it along. Do not force it, because if you force it in the wrong direction, you will crack the acrylic rod. So once that's in there, you're going to put a little bit of glue on the exposed brass rod, and then you're going to push the bead all the way down and spin it a few times, just so that way that glue gets set inside the bead along with the bottom of the bead that's touching the acrylic rod. And then you're going to grab your clippers and snip it flush. Once you've done that, you are good to go with this piece. Alright, so I have the two tools that we're going to start with right here. It's the 1/8 drill bit and the small pin vise. We are going to be using a Thunderbolt bottom for this portion of the tutorial. This does work with all of the other aircraft that are currently released. However, with the Orc aircraft, you may see more of the magnet than you will when it comes to the Imperial planes. So we're going to grab our drill, and we are going to drill out where the original ball from the acrylic flight stand would have gone. And you just want to keep drilling until you're all the way through to the other side, which is where this cutting mat comes into play here. As you can already tell, I've drilled into it a couple of times. Alright, so we're going to flip it over, and you're going to take your sprue cutters again, and you want to cut away at that leftover half sphere. And really all you're doing is you're just getting rid of as much of that material as possible, just to make making that hole easier to drill. So that way you're not fighting all of that material, because it's going to get drilled away anyway, so you might as well just cut it, get out of your way now. So next up, I'm going to grab the 7/32 drill bit, which I need the bigger pin vise for this. So once we get that all together, I am just going to continue making that hole bigger. When you do this, you want to make sure you're going straight down so you don't have a weird elongated hole. Okay. And now for the last drill bit size, the 1/4 inch, which is the outer diameter of our magnets. So this is the size of the drill bit that we will be stopping at. And once we're done drilling through this side, we need to flip it over and drill through the other side, so that way we can deburr it, making sure that the hole is the same on both sides of this piece. Once you have the hole drilled, we are going to grab our magnets. I try to keep them stacked so that way I have something to hold on to. When we do this, you're going to want the countersunk side facing the bottom of the aircraft, because that is going to form the socket of our ball and socket joint. And so what I'll do is I will slowly insert the magnet with the backside facing down, so that way the socket part is facing the proper direction. And once I have it snug where I know it's not going to pop out, I will put some super glue around it, detach the other magnets, and then I will tap it in place, usually using a X-Acto knife handle, because the X-Acto knife handles that I have are non-ferrous, so they don't stick to magnets. And then I just tap away until it's flush. And then once it's flush, you just wait for the glue to dry and you are pretty much set. And there you have it. This is how I magnetized my Aeronautica Imperialis bases. If you have any questions, please leave them below and I will answer them to the best of my ability. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing for more, hitting that bell icon so you don't miss another video. And otherwise, that is going to do it for us today. So thank you for watching. Stay safe and have fun.